Welcome to Champions of Change, a TV series which encapsulates the success stories of enterprises that have championed in creating a healthy work environment and encouraged women friendly culture. In this episode, we present to you a company that has a multi pronged strategy for diversity and inclusion, apart from, of course, being a global leader. And that's none other than Dell Technologies.
Initiatives like Women in Action and DWEN or Dell Women's Entrepreneur Network have helped Dell Technologies accelerate women's roles in driving global economic growth, as well as focusing on sensitivity around second-generation bias to create an environment of inclusivity and higher productivity. Our first guest is Ritu Gupta, Director Marketing, Dell Technologies India.
So I'm going to dive right in, Ritu, and get to my first question. Organizations are moving towards looking at people data in the same way as consumer data. How can data be used effectively to support and help women move to the next level?
At Dell Technologies, we've always been a very employee-first organization. For us, we believe in providing for our community first. And within that space, I would say diversity and inclusion has been a major pillar that has been ingrained in the Dell DNA for forever now. Our vision's firmly fixed on achieving our moonshot goals by 2030. And by that, what I mean is that we are steadily working towards having at least 50% of our global workforce and 40% of our global leaders as women. And we want to identify, those who identify themselves as women represented across all the functions, especially in what is traditionally underrepresented technical positions and leadership roles. Our goals will help us to ensure that Dell Technology is the employer of choice for all. So absolutely right. I think data is becoming very useful for us to look at a lot of this as we go through these new phases of new normal.
What are some of the challenges and opportunities for women as we adapt ourselves to a new world of work? What's your advice for women to move forward strong and even stronger in the post-pandemic world?
See, what's happened is because of work from home, there are some of us who have naturally embraced work from home as an optimal solution, given its flexibility and what it allows us to do. The point is that when specific to your question, it's not only important to hire women, but also to mentor them, retain them, and make sure that we are encouraging them to take on leadership positions so that when young women are evaluating their options and when they are debating whether or not to pursue STEM careers, they can actually look up to and have these inspirational leadership women in the position who they can look up to and say, this is somebody who I would want to go and become later on. Also, given that a lot of us, what we do is now fully transportable via all the smart devices that we use, and a lot of companies going fully virtual, one would think that this transition to full-time work from home or at-home work would hopefully mean a lot less stress for employees going forward, and perhaps an even more level playing field otherwise. Because at the end of the day, what you really want for that great equalizer to be in the workplace should still be about education. It could be about skills. It's about the effort that one is putting in, the capabilities and the abilities that one is demonstrating, whether somebody is working from home or somebody is working from office, because what matters really is what you're contributing back to your workplace. And we want to make sure that our focus remains on that. And I believe that women's careers won't be impacted as greatly as some suggest by the pandemic forced work from home and work-life balance shift that's happening. Because I do believe that this work from home does have a potential to be a great equalizer in many ways, in a lot more ways than we have seen it to be.
Ritu, 2020 forced many of us to change our views of work and productivity. How have you seen that affecting, women team members?
Given that we are also dealing with the repercussions of the pandemic, I believe that initially finding that balance was extremely tough for a lot of us. But we embraced the change, and I'm sure a lot of us have emerged as victors, because the key was to give enough focus to be able to attend it. And really, I personally know women who've been able to do that with a lot of elan and with a lot of grace. So it's definitely is something that women have been able to, adapt to that and really not let any of that impact their productivity and attitude towards work.
Ritu, how did you connect the dots when it came to embracing the opportunities that came your way?
Personally, again, I have probably embraced opportunities that came my way, big or small, and that's what I've done. I've tried to do that a lot of in my entire life. I've made sure I'm not quitting, exploring new interests, taking on new challenges and on. So even here, when it was about, okay, this is what life's going to be like, I think a lot of adaptation that needed to be done in terms of work style changes, work-life balance changes. But the one thing that I have probably focused a lot more on and revisited and refocused my energies on beyond the space of work, I would say it would be about a renewed focus on health, because this is the one thing that has taught us all that its health is of paramount importance. And I think that's the one place where I've been able to connect the dots, or I've chosen to connect the dot a lot more.
We caught up with Senior Director IT Infrastructure, Dell Technologies, Vinita Gera, for her take on redefining the meaning of women in technology.
So let me dive straight in, Vinita. People have a stereotypical image of a techie as a superstar coder who has to be an engineer or computer science graduate. And that stereotype does do a huge disservice to women in the tech industry. How would you define a woman in tech?
Well, that stereotypical image has also gone through a major change and shift and is actually being embraced well by many. And that happened because of the change in technology. But now we're talking about self-service for most things through one button interface sometimes. And we are also talking about SaaS platforms that encourage no code. So the stereotype is gone, or rather widely spread now. And the creative application to technology is what's more important, along with being very nerdy. So it fits the bill for many people, and that's where it's getting very interesting, and also levels out the gender differences.
Dell has loudly and proudly spoken about how D&I is an inevitable part of its DNA. What is your perspective on this, and can you elaborate on some of the initiatives Dell has in place with regards to D&I?
People have always been our most valuable asset. And as we say at Dell, D&I is who we are, not just what we do. We have employee resource groups. These are basically communities within Dell Technologies in which team members with common interests or backgrounds can come together to connect, learn, develop new skills, and impact the business. So being a part of an ERG opens doors to so many other things than the real purpose of the ERG, like mentoring, networking, leadership development, volunteering, and as well as community involvement, all of which only serve to strengthen our organization and our chances of success. And I think for all kinds of D&I topics, if all of us can first learn and then judge versus, the vice versa, we will be able to move the needle faster.
How can women function as role models and mentors, both within and outside the organization?
I think most women have a higher empathy and a highly developed emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, which just makes them even better at being role models and mentors. And more often than not, our role models are beyond the people we work on a day-to-day basis or have anything to do with our field of expertise. And again, I think the digital progress or the divide that has gone away has made it much more easier to get mentored by anyone. There are influencers using platforms to bring out such amazing stories. So a lot of my own motivation comes from a diverse set of role models within the organization, outside, often even much younger people, and sometimes even through fictional characters. I think it's the best time ever seen on how willing people are to mentor and build communities and literally lean on each other.
From being an engineering leader to a site leader and now joining Dell IT, how has your personal journey been with Dell?
Yeah, each time I change my role, I think my stakeholders change, my customer changes, and so does the processes and technology. the fresh new look, the outside-in perspective, that is extremely powerful and very, very conducive to growth. Dell actually encourages internal job movements heavily. There are folks at Dell who've been much longer than me, been here for 2 decades or even 3 decades, but in various capacities. And that is a sign of a mature organization. And I'm very, very privileged to benefit from that culture as I begin my new phase with Dell IT organization.
Welcome back to Champions of Change, a TV series encapsulating that the qualities of a great leader have never been gender dependent. Today we are in conversation with the women leaders from Dell Technologies. We caught up with Ritu Rakra, the Regional HR Head India for Dell Technologies, who shed more light on how job opportunities await women at work, but they also face new challenges overlaid on long-established ones in the age of automation.
Needless to say, women employees go through many life transitions and challenges at a personal level. How can organizations encourage them when they come back to the workplace? What are your thoughts about proactive career planning?
That's an excellent question there, Sonali. So the way I look at it, I think before a woman goes on a break, the way she is treated and the experiences that she goes through is what will determine or will play a large part in her decision to come back or not. Every woman goes through a period where she's deciding to go on a break or not. And what she experiences from the organization, experienced through her leader and the team members is really what she carries with her. So it's really up to the organization to share an inclusive culture or create a sense of an inclusive culture across the board so that the woman feels comfortable coming back. Once the woman is back, there are multiple things that an organization can do and should do. I think one of the things that I will encourage leaders to look at is the work plan itself. Is it something which suits the current needs of the individual?
Organizations today understand the importance of diversity and inclusion at workplaces, but there are various challenges being faced while implementing the strategy. What are some of the challenges that Dell is surmounting, and is Dell willing to walk the talk?
I think everybody should recognize that we should not stereotype people, and we should have situations where we encourage diversity and create an inclusive environment.
When you yourself look back at your own career, what would you say have been some of those defining moments and milestone moments, that really make you who you are today?
See, every leader, I think, has the basics, right? So you typically would be one who come with a lot of professionalism, are very committed to your work. All the good things exist in most leaders, right? But I think there are 2 things that I would advise everybody, and not just every individual really. Never hesitate to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. The second one, our society is one where we're taught to be modest as we grow up, right? So we hesitate, even in the workplace, to talk about the good work we're doing. I think it's important to talk about the good work one does for the organization's sake, because the organization should recognize it and capitalize on it, as well as for one's own sake. So I think, it gives you a good booster dose of confidence if you talk about the work you've done and the accomplishments you've had, and it helps you grow stronger.
The pandemic, as we know, has exposed and highlighted and spotlighted existing gender inequalities and brought to the forefront issues that exist at a leadership level. Mm-hmm. How can organizations work towards widening the definition of leadership to encompass notions like kindness, compassion, empathy, relativity, and the likes? Because I think most women or women leaders try and morph themselves into being more male than actually embracing, their feminine selves.
The way I look at it, right, during the pandemic, during the peak of the second wave, really, The amount of empathy, kindness, ownership that I saw from leaders across the board was amazing. Each person stepped up to the occasion, tried to help a team member who was in distress, either personally or had a situation in the extended family. Um, they came together. The number of volunteers we had who really stepped in to kind of help team members find hospital beds, oxygen, etc., etc. It was just amazing. The kind of feedback we received in terms of what more we could do, we really ended up putting together a very robust support mechanism for all our employees in India. As a result of that, let me share some data with you, right? We do an annual survey called Tell Dell was run in the first week of May, which was the peak of the second wave. And two questions I will pick from there. First one is the Employee Net Promoter Score, the ENPS as we know it, was 73 for employees in India, which is fantastic. The second one is we asked team members about their energy levels, and we got a score of 85. As a country, what we were going through. But despite that, team members appreciated the, what the organization and leaders did for them. And that translated into these scores.
Next, we spoke to Shri Kripa Srinivasan, Vice President of Dell's Performance Analytics Group, for her take on the need to encourage more women to upskill themselves and how is Dell helping in making that happen.
How can organizations focus on building an ecosystem around fair representation of women in core tech?
Very, very difficult question. And I'm saying this because all of us, Sonali, I must be a generation ahead of you in terms of age. All of us have been going on and on and on about this for a while, saying, women, hire more women, diversity. We have a huge target of 50% women by 2030 in Dell. All I think big companies have got targets like that which they're working on. Why aren't we still getting there? And that's the point which you need to ponder about a bit. And the answer to that really is the combination of two. One, the huge willingness from women to say, I want to do something which is not done in the past. And number two is the avenues you provide them, saying if somebody takes a chance at that, how welcoming are you? Those both things are important.
You couldn't have said it better and summarized really the problem at hand. Having said that, what are your views on women in tech? And can you throw some light on the programs at Dell that focuses on upskilling women?
First of all, we have a very large employee resource group called Women in Action. And it's a large group where we have a lot of women who participate. That's one part. And under that head, we have upskilling, we have Lean In, we have Mentor Connect and a bunch of other programs. Mentor Connect is a program which goes beyond Dell. We actually connect with a few other corporates like ours outside and get women from both groups as well as leaders from both groups to talk to each other and help beyond just Dell. So if you look at upskilling, right now, for example, we have this huge target top down to hire women at every possible level where you have openings, and we have a lot of openings right now. But you want them by merit. So this is not a quota thing. So you want them by merit. And by merit, we are actually finding in some segments of our workplace, we absolutely unable to find women. And when you deep dive on that, Sonali, you realize that there are two reasons. One, women have not taken up those professions. You talk about STEM or whatever, women have not taken up those professions. And two is that if they have, at some point in time in the hierarchy, they have dropped out. Both are big challenges. Will I be able to solve this immediately for my immediate open requisition? The answer may be no. But how do I ensure that tomorrow my daughter, when she's sitting down where I'm sitting, doesn't go through the same situation? So one is encouraging women. Second portion is that once they come in, how do you ensure that you're consistently giving them what is needed, and how do you ensure they are consistently taking what is being given to them? I think that's from a Dell perspective, all of this we have our hands full in terms of what we want to do.
How do you think technology is helping Dell in its journey to becoming a more, inclusive workplace?
So this concept of work anywhere and work from anywhere and all was absolutely alien. As we went along, we realized that you need a lot more flexibility as far as work is concerned. Where we are today from a technology perspective, I cannot complain in terms of what we offer to women or anybody from a flexibility. I'm sitting outside a hospital, we are able to log in. I'm sitting outside my parent teachers meeting, waiting for somebody to call me, I'm logged in. I'm sitting in the airport, I'm logged in. I'm sitting in the car, I'm logged in. So you can't expect more flexibility than that. So the flexibility that we offer is because technology supports us. The Zoom era of the last 18 months has proven to us that every profession can be done from home. Unlike the myth that we had in the past saying, and I'm a finance person, so I'm going to be blunt about saying this. An accounting finance person never, ever thought that they could sit at home and work. 18 months, the board meetings have happened from home. The AGMs have happened from home. It's just proven to us that you have the right technology, have the right equipment at home. You can log in anywhere very effectively. Our audits have happened well. Our AGMs have happened. So, it's proven to us that you have the right technology, invest in the right technology. Absolutely, you can make it happen. You need to ask for it though.
Moving on to a more personal question, Sri Kripa. When you look back at your own career, how did you take care of those big adversities that came your way? And what would be that one challenging moment in your career span, which you would look at as a milestone challenge? And of course, success mantras that helped you overcome it, so that for all the young aspirational women workforce who are listening to you, this might be inspirational.
As a woman, I want to say that every woman in my household has worked, so that was never an issue. However, they worked on what we typically called women professions, teacher, principal, those kind of things, which are very, very women professions. So from in my generation was the first time when we actually went out really a lot more from those defined professions and started doing things which were outside of the box. My tip to women is that success in my career has come because I've not been very myopic, saying I want only this, I will do only this. These the ills of being very literate, Sonali, is that you start becoming very egotist in terms of what you want to do. Oh my God, that's not a chartered accountant's work. Oh, that is not a VP's work, kind of a thing. To me, what has really worked is the problem statement today is this: help the management solve it. The problem, the country is going through this. Help the country solve this. So when you are flexible, saying this is what your management requires, this is what the overall socioeconomic environment requires, you take on responsibility more freely. The biggest piece is that saying, don't be dogmatic and fanatic about where you come from, and be more flexible. You become a much better business person. This is my single biggest mantra. Second is, more often than not, there isn't a gender bias. It's a lot in your head. It is there in portions, but a lot is there in your own head. Go with the fact that there is no gender bias. Things will just work out well for you.
Thank you so much, Sri Kripa, for your time. This has truly been wonderful. And thank you so much for being part of these very, very important series.
That brings this special episode of Champions of Change to a close. Thank you so much for watching.